All right, y'all, welcome back to That Atleti Podcast. Jeremy Beren here with you. Ricky Menendez is not with us today. He is just on his way back to Spain, and he's arriving very late. So you all will get to see Ricky again on our show next week when we preview the league season ahead. For today's show, though, I'm going to talk about Atleti's preseason with a very special guest. Those of you who have been following me or my work over the years will know our guest, or my guest today, Rob Walker. Unc Rob, returning to the show, my most frequent guest slash co-host, basically, when I did Colchonero Chat the many years ago on Into the Calderon. Rob, it's so good to have you back on the show, man. Well, on this show for the first time.
On this show for the first time, but it's like riding a bike, doing a podcast with you. We've done so many over the years. I'm definitely more in my retirement phase of that sort of a thing, but it's good to dust the old microphone off after a while and get back in the saddle. We were talking beforehand about how long it's been exactly. Been maybe about 2 years, so it's been a minute, but no, I'm excited to talk about all things Atleti. It's been a minute, so I'm excited.
Those of you watching on YouTube, you are probably not able to see Rob, unfortunately. Technical issues, camera issues, these things happen, but we are gonna crack our fingers and get to work nonetheless, man. We got a Atleti preseason to talk about. Preseason is not always the most exciting time of the season, but there are always interesting things we can try to glean from it. Just like the blanket caveat for this episode is going to be, it's just preseason. So I'm not going to be conducting the hype train too hard, but there are things, Rob, that I am excited about with respect to Atletico this season.
Me too. I think it's been a really interesting summer. Definitely one of those that we've seen on a number of occasions over the last decade or so, in terms of kind of reloading. It's a reloading summer. Some longtime faces are gone, so it's definitely kind of exciting to get a new crop in.
Yeah, man. Speaking of those faces that are leaving, we just received word that Axel Witsel is going to Girona to join Tomalema.
Getting the band back together.
Up in Catalonia, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just one of, actually two of, I think 10 departures now. Saul is finally gone, which made me sad, but also a bit relieved, as I'm sure you felt the same.
Yeah, it felt like a slow death, for lack of a better term. For a guy that had so much potential and so much hope from the fan base in him for so long. It's unfortunate the way that it played out, but I think it feels like he's been gone for about 3 years now, but for it to just be official now feels kind of wild.
We've had a very busy summer in terms of outgoings, but also incomings. Rob, as someone who likes Atlanta sports, in spite of Atlanta sports, you can tell us a little bit about Thiago Almada, can't you?
I can. Atlanta United as a sort of institution has kind of done this multiple times with young South American players, and Almada was not the one immediately after the sort of Miguel Almiron, Joseph Martinez sort of era, but he was maybe 2 steps down the line after them. Obviously came in with a ton of hype, went to the World Cup with Argentina that they won. And a very exciting young player. His career arc to this point is pretty bizarre. If you just look at it, I mean, obviously we understand the reason why he went to Botafogo and then to Leon of the whole Eagle sports group nightmare conglomeration.
We do love multi-club ownership, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Speaking of Girona, yeah. So so he was an extremely exciting player. Career is definitely, I think you could fairly say, sort of stalled out a bit and needs a bit of a change of scenery. He's still extremely young and very talented, so he'll be definitely an exciting player, but definitely a guy who kind of needs to get his career back on track, and I think this is a good opportunity for him to do that.
He just hasn't had a lot of stability in his career. He's moved around a lot, playing in Argentina at Vélez Sarsfield, then he moves to Atlanta, then he moves to Botafogo and Leon, and this is his third club in the last. Atletico is his third club in the last year and a half. That's tough on any footballer. I don't care how talented you are. But the indications right now, Rob, are that Thiago Almada is going to be starting for Atletico in match day 1 against Espanyol. I think he was one of the players that impressed me against Newcastle on Saturday in the Sela Cup. Atletico are Sela Cup winners. You'll never sing that.
That's right.
After Atletico Masculino and Femenino, both 2-0 winners over Newcastle United men's and Newcastle United women's, respectively. Almada on Saturday was part of the starting team that played the first hour, 48 touches, completed 25 of his 29 passes, won 8 of his 13 duels, and drew 5 fouls. We're seeing a player who can cut in from the left into central areas. Obviously, that link-up play with Alvarez from the Argentina national team, you're hoping that carries over to Atletico. Part of this new kind of creative force behind Alvarez, you have Almada, Baena, Pablo Barrios, and Barrios gets fit again. Giuliano Simeone, Giacomo Raspadori also set to arrive this coming week from Napoli. All these moves, Rob, seem geared toward one singular goal: get the ball to Julián Alvarez in the penalty area and just let him score goals.
Not a bad idea. No, and the midfield situation had definitely become kind of stale over the last couple of years. I think the guys aging out, guys that had been around for a while, and there definitely needed to be a shakeup. And I think with the sheer amount of guys that have been brought in this summer for not insignificant fees is going to make a big difference in terms of the creativity of the midfield. And I think for Almada, there's no doubting the talent in the player at all. It's obvious from the second that you watch him. It's just going to be a question of, like we've seen so many times, is he the player that has the right kind of attitude to work in a Simeone team, understand what his role is, understand what is going to be asked of him, not just from an attacking perspective, but also in terms of work rate and staying fit and all those things. Because we've seen it go very well and we've seen it go very poorly. So I think at this point we're kind of on wait and see, but there's no doubting the talent of the player for sure.
We're already hoping to see that connection with Almada and Alvarez carry over from Argentina. We're already starting to see it with Alex Baena, Rob. He assisted Alvarez's goal 5 minutes into the second half at St. James's Park. It was a counterattack started by a Conor Gallagher ball recovery. Almada pings the pass to Alvarez into space. Alvarez tries to send it to the far post for Baena, but the pass is astray. Baena settles himself, crosses it back to Alvarez, and Alvarez just taps it in. In this setup, Rob, how confident are you that Julián Alvarez can be that dude? I'm talking about a guy who, can he score 40 goals in all competitions?
I think he certainly has the capability to do that. I mean, last season he scored almost 30 in all comps in a team that was sort of chopped and changed. I mean, obviously did fairly well, all things considered, but certainly there was a lack of continuity there. And I think now with a different supporting cast behind him, it's going to give him a lot of good opportunities. I think, especially with those balls in behind, that he is an exceptionally deadly player. And I think we just saw glimpses of what it can be. And I think for him, I mean, he's still so young. It's really ridiculous. To think how much better this guy can be. I mean, he's only 25 and he's already has so much experience for a guy of that age. And I feel like last season at times it just seemed like we're only scratching the surface here, and there's so much more to come. And that's also not to take anything away from Sorloth. What an amazing season. Now, a lot of those goals came in bunches, so it may look a little bit more consistent than maybe it felt on a week-to-week basis. But again, excellent striker. Going to have plenty of opportunities for both of those guys. I think they're going to have the chances, and I think they are going to be put in a much better position this year than perhaps they were last season.
I think half of his goals last season in the league came in a span of 4 games, which is not really what you want, but that's also inherent to his role as a substitute. It's inherent to just being a center forward. Like, there aren't that many forwards in the world who can supply their own goals.
He's an extremely experienced player at this point. You sort of know what you're going to get with Sorloth. I think, I don't know. It definitely still takes me some time to adjust thinking about the fees for players. It's like, all right, yeah, he cost over 30 million euros, but these days that's really not that much, especially for a striker that can bag you that many goals in a season. So I agree with you. I think it's a little wanting the grass to be a little bit greener with Sorloth. He's an extremely competent striker, and will he score 20 league goals in this coming season? I would probably take the under on that, but that's not to say that, less than that won't be effective or will be very valuable for what he can contribute to the team.
I don't think you can pay 30 to 35 million for a substitute. That's, I think, the major sticking point that I have. But as they say, flags fly forever. If Atletico win a trophy with this alignment with Sorloth coming off the bench, then hey, works.
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the going rate these days. Like, the amount that the price changes, and I realize Atleti obviously are in a sticky financial position, so need to be smart about how resources are allocated. But even still, I think For 30 million, is it the best value for money on the market? No, I wouldn't say that. But I also don't think it's a ludicrous amount to pay for what you've already gotten back for him.
Which, yeah, I think that's a very fair point. And what other striker on the market was going to guarantee you this production? Atletico Madrid are not in a position to spend 70 million on Victor Gilchrist.
Right, and that was definitely a player that was strongly linked to the club. Obviously, Berta, that was his guy.
Yeah,
we've heard that since he's gone to Arsenal, and that was also sort of the case when he was still at Atleti. Gyökeres was his guy, and that would be a lot of money. Sporting were not playing any games over that transfer
they wanted
fee
top dollar. They knew the asset they had.
Yeah, absolutely.
They knew what they had.
Yeah, I mean, this is a player that almost won the European Golden Boot last season, if not for the weird way that they weight leagues against each other.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
They
you should
the
ask
rules
for the bag.
They changed the rules to give it to Mbappe so that Real Madrid could claim they won something last year.
Yeah, exactly.
I've buried the lead here a little bit. This is the part of the show where I mentioned that Rob is also an Arsenal fan.
So, oh yeah, I forgot. We have to intro that.
we don't hold this against you, man. Although if Atleti had played Arsenal in the Champions League last year, I don't know what that would have done to our friendship.
Hey, listen, it's all good. We've already done that once in the Europa League.
We
however
did.
many years ago that was.
We did survive that.
We survived that, and look, Arsenal knocked Real Madrid out of the Champions League. We can all get behind that.
Thank God that happened.
There's all things we can get aboard here, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely been interesting for me as also an Arsenal fan to now have the Berta experience at Arsenal. I can't get this guy out of my life.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how Gilchrist and Mosquera especially were at long-term Atleti targets, and now they're both at Arsenal, like immediately after Berta takes the job. I was a little surprised that Atleti still didn't continue to pursue Christian Mosquera. I think there are some weaknesses there, but he's also a 20-year-old center back. Like that's
I was about to say, like, yes, he's very raw, but I mean, and granted, Valencia are an absolute dumpster fire. But
oh my God.
But
yeah.
But to play that much as a center back in any top 5 league at the age of 20 is impressive, at the very least. It shows that he has plenty of tools, and I think he's very physically talented. He'll definitely take some getting used to in the Premier League. That's a big step up. I think he'll probably be a bit part player at most, probably play cup games and such, but it's a big move for him. But yeah, I thought Atleti also would have been a very good fit, and he was available for so cheap. Again, Valencia dumpster fire, rinse and repeat for the last decade, basically.
Yeah, it's so sad because it's such a big club and such a historic club in the history of Spanish football. It's just so sad to see them like this.
It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing that
call it what it is. Yeah.
So bad. Yeah, it is, because they should be doing much better than they have been. They deserve better than the Peter Lim era.
Well, it may not go on too much longer, but we'll have to see. They did get that renewal for Javi Guerra done, which I was a little disappointed at because I wanted Guerra to play for Atleti. I think he would have been a really good fit here. Basically, last year it was you can either have Javi Guerra or you can have Conor Gallagher, and there's still this division over Gallagher that hasn't really been resolved now that preseason is concluded. And a week from today, we're recording this on Sunday afternoon, Atleti are playing Espanyol to open the new league season. How do you feel about Gallagher, man? Do you think there is a future here, short, medium, long term at Atleti, or do you think there's a ticket back to England with his name on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, especially with the English players that have come to Atleti. I mean, Kieran Trippier had an incredible season, and but was basically the first opportunity to go back to England. He was there. Gallagher's an interesting case because he was subject to the Chelsea loan vortex for so many years. I think he may be more likely to actually want to stay somewhere for more than a short period of time, because he has been on loan a billion different times, and for parts of that time he was integrated into the Chelsea team, and then he was out the door. I think he fits well with Atleti, to be honest with you. I think, obviously he is very much a Simeone kind of guy. Like this is I was not shocked in the least that he played as much as he did. Um, I think he's fine. I understand why people have some reservations about him, and also just with English players in general. They do tend to want to go back home eventually, but I don't know. I think at least for this season, I think he's absolutely worth keeping around. He's still pretty young. I mean, this whole team, I feel like if you go down the team for the vast majority of it, it's like 25, 25, 24, 24. They're all
Isn't
kind
it
of in
great? Oh,
that
it's
range.
great.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. Yeah. I think everyone's kind of in the right age bracket that you want them in terms of performance, and still to the point where they're going to have sell-on value later. And again, with Conor Gallagher, you want to keep him around and keep him playing, because if he plays well, some English club may come in and give you a whole heap of money for him just because of how valuable
Give you
those
your money
homegrown players
back.
are. Oh,
Yeah.
easily. Yeah, because
Yeah.
those homegrown players in England are worth so much money. I don't think Atleti will have even a little bit of trouble getting their money back.
I too would like to keep Gallagher in the squad, but I do think a midfielder is missing. That's something the preseason. That's, I guess, one of the conclusions I'm left with is after preseason is that I would really like Atletico to sign another midfielder. I am doubtful that they're going to. I think what's most likely going to happen is that Pablo Barrios will start, Conor Gallagher will not. I suppose there is an alignment or a formation where Gallagher, Barrios, and Johnny Cardoso all get into the team. And I think that midfield trio could work. Maybe. I'd have to think a little bit more about it. But I think what's more likely, the most likely outcome is that Barrios is going to be the new Rodrigo de Paul, which is not bad. Pablo Barrios is a sensational player. And Rodrigo de Paul, as we've talked about as I've talked about on the show with Ricky, Rodrigo de Paul is a problem Atletico no longer could really afford to have on its books.
I would tend to agree with you that, I mean, there's been a lot of very long tenured players that have gone out the door, especially in the midfield this summer. So I can see where you're coming from, that it does seem a bit light in midfield. One more guy would be good, but again, there's been a lot of money spent already this summer, and probably without an outgoing, that seems unlikely.
That outgoing would probably, ironically, be Gallagher, knowing how Atletico operate. They're already starting to sell it as, I read this in Marca on Friday, that Gallagher has teams in England that want him, and he's playing more than just a friendly against Newcastle. So I think it's an option. The Gallagher could still leave. I would like him to stay, though. I think what he lacks technically, I think he more or less makes up for physically. Just again, he keyed the first goal on Saturday with that recovery in midfield and then the quick layoff to Almada. Like a double pivot with Gallagher and Cardoso, I think lacks something technically, but the physical and defensive profiles I think would be pretty good. And a 4-2-3-1 is inherently a more attacking system. If you have those two shielding what I think is still kind of a weak defense, that could work. That is another alignment that could work. And Simeone, as he likes to do in preseason, did some experimenting. I guess my second conclusion from preseason, after seeing some of these experiments and how they played out, is that Atletico are going to be more of a high press team this season. And we don't often associate Simeone and Atleti with a high press. We associate them with the medium to low block and absorbing all this pressure for 70, 80, 90 minutes at a time, depending on the quality of the opponent. But with all the Simeone, I think has said this, with all the, it was Koke who said it, not Simeone, with the younger legs in here, with guys like Baena and Alvarez and Almada, Johnny Matteo Ruggeri, who I think he's a little suspect defensively, but I really like the fit at left back / left wing back. You have all these younger players in that age bracket you just mentioned. There is less of an excuse not to press high, not to play a more modern, active, aggressive, high pressing system that could also have the benefit of giving Alvarez easier looks at goal if you force a lot of high turnovers.
Yeah, I don't doubt that is definitely an avenue that they're going to explore and probably play early on, because like you say, with the way this squad is built, it makes a whole heap of sense. But my question would be, how long is Diego Simeone going to persist with that before he goes back to Old Faithful? Because we've seen it before. There have been periods of time where there has been slight evolutions, but when it starts going wrong, Simeone is like, all right, let's stop trying to do too much here. Let's go back to all reliable here, and we can make sure we can grind out some results. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I think the squad, like you say, is certainly set up to do it. It's just a question of how long and will he persist with it?
At the first sign of trouble, what's going to happen?
Don't know back five.
that was the key from moving back to the 4-4-2 last season. Was Atleti started the season terribly. The heavy loss of Benfica, the loss at Betis was really the one that put the nail in the coffin. Just seeing how we've lined up in the offensive phase this preseason, the entire left side is for Matteo Ruggetti, who again I think is a really interesting player. And even though he was reportedly the club's third choice, because of course they first wanted to sign Teo Hernandez, which is such a winning idea for everyone.
Oh boy!
Then they wanted to sign Andy Robertson, and they eventually decided to sign Ruggetti, which is so clearly.
I don't hate the way it worked out. I really don't hate the way that worked out. I got to be honest with you. I'm all right with it.
Oh man, the entire left side, you have Ruggetti on it. Almada cutting in from the left. Gallagher and Johnny are behind him. Baena and Julian kind of in a makeshift forward pair, but I think Baena will have a little bit more license to roam. You might see Baena play on the right-hand side a bit this season, just because you need a different. And I'm saying this as someone who loves Giuliano Simeone, but I think we need an alternative to Giuliano. I think he's too similar to Marco Llorente, I think. And yeah, man, I wanted to say something about Kieran Trippier really fast because you mentioned him. Simeone applauded him off the pitch yesterday at St. James's Park, and they had an emotional, I think it was before and after the game, they had kind of an emotional reunion. Trippier's son was wearing an Atleti shirt. Back when we were doing Coach Nero Chat, I remember us doing podcasts that summer when Trippier arrived, and we were both expressing some concern, right? That Trippier's coming from Spurs, he doesn't really have the best reputation, especially defensively. How is this going to look? How is this going to work? If you had told me 6 years ago that Kieran Trippier was going to be regarded as something of an Atletico icon, I would not have believed you. But here we are in this bizarro timeline, man.
And he's rightfully regarded, I think, in that just of how important he was to that title winning team. I mean, he was critical. I mean, and he brought something that, Atleti have had some really good fullbacks, don't get me wrong, but Kieran Trippier brought something that was not the usual, was not that something that we had seen from that position in a way that was super effective. And I know that there have been some rumors with him maybe leaving Newcastle this summer. I don't know exactly. I mean, he is kind of getting up there. He's 34, 35 now. So he's definitely sort of on the back end here. But no, an absolutely critical player for that title winning team. And, for the amount of money that Atleti paid for him, that was more than worth it because that was a critical, 2.5 seasons that he was with the club?
Yeah.
Some players, it's so funny with Simeone, just work. They just click. And he was definitely one of them.
Man, that season when we won the league, he was the best right back in the country, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Just his connection with Llorente was just perfect.
Yeah.
Still kind of
that Llorente season was crazy. It was an insane season.
I just remember being so doubtful about and so skeptical about that signing, and just seeing how it turned out and the lasting legacy that Trippier has left here. It's just really, you never know with these transfers, man, which is why people are like freaking out about Raspadori coming from Napoli. You never know. Like the guys who could be the riskiest turn out to be the best players. Diego Godin, we talked about this last week. Who are the worst signings in Atletico's history? Godin had a terrible first season here, and now no one disputes that he's a legend.
No, yeah, of course.
You never know.
You never know. Sometimes it seems like, all right, like this makes all the sense in the world. Jackson Martinez, he's big, he's strong, he's been banging in goals in Portugal, and oh boy, that did not work.
We didn't even mention Jackson last week. Oh my God. I've kind of repressed the memory of that.
He's burned it, but well, to be fair, Atleti got bailed out on him. Thank you, China. We appreciate that one.
Man. That
was an absolute bailout from China.
Oh my God. The younger fans may not remember this, but back before the Saudi league started buying up all these players, the Chinese league was there first. And
Yes.
after 6 months of watching Jackson just not really know what was going on, we sold him for a profit to, I think, Guangzhou Evergrande.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I think a fairly decent profit too. like not just getting your money back, like made 15 million or something.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to check this. I think we bought him for 35 because we paid his release clause. So we bought him for 35 and we sold him for 42.
Now, you remember what I said earlier about 30 million not being a lot for a striker now?
Yes.
In 2015, it was a lot.
That
10 years ago, that was a fat bag.
That was our record transfer, I think, at the time. Shortly thereafter, surpassed by Vitolo, who was a Colchonero chat legend because I had a crash out about Vitolo on a podcast episode once.
Because he wasn't gonna sign, not because he did sign, because he wasn't. Dude,
I was so angry.
That was a bad day. That was a real bad day.
So upset. I woke up and it said that Vitolo was going to renew with Sevilla, and I was like, Rob, we have to do a podcast right now.
The Sevilla club president tilted you then more than you have ever been before or since.
Oh, I was so rattled.
He was mad.
So rattled.
That was bad. That was a bad day.
That's what I'm talking about, though. I was convinced Vitolo would be a smashing success here, and he wasn't. Not at all. Oof, that was 37 million down the drain.
Was that? Yeah, because he went on loan to Las Palmas, right? That was the transfer ban summer.
Yes,
which was
that was the transfer ban
of
summer.
Itself. Yeah.
So Atleti sent him back to Las Palmas for 6 months, where he did okay. They brought him back. Simeone started him in a Madrid derby, and he assisted a goal for Griezmann. And
we were like, here we go. We're back.
Here we go. The Vitolo era has commenced, brother.
And it did not.
But no, I think he was on the books until last year, or maybe the year before. But he was on the books until fairly recently, because they did the thing that they've been doing with all these other players, just deferring money, extending their contracts, paying them the same wages, but they just did it with Griezmann. You're giving him a 2-year contract, but you're paying him the 6 million net that you owe him. And you will know this, but the listeners might not. I was a fan of Kevin Gamero. You remember
you were
when I would do
longer than most.
Some Gamero propaganda. I really liked him. He wasn't quite Atleti standard, but he was close enough to he was a tease. He scored that hat trick at Sporting Gijon in 4.5 minutes, which until Surloth this year was the fastest hat trick in Atleti's history, I think.
It wasn't all his fault. He just did not fit with Griezmann at all. That combination was bad.
His problem was he wasn't Diego Costa. That was his only problem. His biggest problem. Actually, remember Jackson's. This is how diseased I am. I remember Jackson's introductory press conference, and someone asked him how many goals he thought he would score. And Jackson said, I don't want to put a number on it, but it's going to be a lot. Oops.
Well, it's a good thing he didn't put a number on it.
Only to have Fernando Torres starting over him.
Oh, God.
And El Nino was still a pretty solid player. But at that point in his career, he wasn't Liverpool Torres anymore. He wasn't teenage Torres anymore. Torres and Griezmann was the strike partnership once upon a time. Griezmann obviously left and came back. Griezmann is still here. Did you see his goal yesterday?
I did.
Oh, so classy.
I saw a clip of it. Yeah, that was him all over, man.
I want to get your thoughts on how you see Griezmann's situation, because we've talked about it over the last few weeks. Almada and Baena are here. Raspadori is about to arrive. With those 3 guys in the fold, Griezmann is not going to get a whole lot of playing time. He's entering his first season as a substitute, no question about it. How do you think he's going to adapt to that role? Are we seeing enough encouragement in this preseason suggests, okay, with 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, Antoine Griezmann can still bring the goods?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely. I mean, the thing with Griezmann is he is remarkably durable throughout his career. That's true. One of the things that you can hang your hat on with Griezmann is there have definitely been times where the form has dropped off a little bit, but he will be available. So I think from that perspective, he makes sense as a substitute. He's obviously has a wealth of experience at this point in his career. And I mean, this is probably I think it's fair to say the last season or maybe second to last season for him at the club. I mean, I know there have been a ton of MLS stuff swirling around him. It'll definitely be a period of adaptation for him because he has just played an absolute ton both times he's been at Atleti. And he didn't have a great season last year. Nobody would say that, but it also was not terrible. It wasn't old Griezmann, but he's now in his mid-30s, Griezmann. It's just a different phase of his career. I think he definitely still has something to offer. I think it's just going to be a question of people's expectations for him because you can't go into this season really expecting him to be what he used to be anymore. It's just not realistic. But I definitely think off the bench and starting some games, especially if there's been like a midweek Champions League game or something like that, that you can definitely still get a few goals out of him.
He didn't start preseason very well. He didn't look very good against Porto. The game against Rayo Vallecano was behind closed doors, and because Atleti still don't have its own like TV channel in the year of our Lord 2025, no one could watch it but the media. So Griezmann scored a great goal against Rayo, and then he scored a fabulous goal yesterday. And I don't know, it leaves me feeling a little more optimistic that in a more sheltered role with those minutes kind of carefully monitored that Griezmann can still produce. Like that Griezmann he still has the technical quality. He's one of the smartest players of his generation. There's one of the smartest players I've ever watched, no doubt. And there is no doubt that Simeone has always valued that, will continue to value it. It is. I am still a bit skeptical, though. I am skeptical of the squad depth. I think there are questions around several players, especially those in defense, Rob. Jose Jimenez, are you going to be healthy this season? He missed all 3 preseason games. Not certain he's going to play against Espanyol next week. He's still nursing an injury he picked up at the Club World Cup. Nahuel Molina, are you going to be like at all reliable, my dude? Molina's going to stay, which has a knock-on effect for everyone, including Marc Pubil, who is going to be turned into a center back, it would appear. Robin Lenormand. Robin, are you going to be the guy that we've seen for Spain the last couple of years? And I know there are some fans and analysts who don't really rate him. I do. I think he's a good defender. We just haven't seen that decisiveness in duels. We haven't seen quite the positional and ball playing ability that made him a more complete center back when he played at Real Sociedad. Javi Galan. How much are we going to see Javi Galan play this season? If Ruggeri is really reliable, I don't think we're going to see Galan play very much, which I have a bit of a soft spot for Javi Galan. I recognize he's not Atleti standard quite, but I think he's serviceable. I think he's a decent squad option. Certainly not a starter here. I think he was very miscast in that role. And Clement Lenglet. What are we going to get out of Clement Lenglet, man? The dude's a mystery box. The first 4 months last season were great. He was genuinely a huge surprise. He shut me up. And then the calendar year turned, and he has just been like a kind of a disaster since January.
Yeah, turned into a pumpkin. Yeah,
and David Hansko just arrived from Feyenoord, and he's already starting. He made 7 clearances in 60 minutes yesterday. This dude Hansko looks like he's going to be a bit of a defensive rock, which we haven't had here in a while. Like Jimenez is supposed to be that guy, but Jimenez, between the injuries and the inconsistency last year, just hasn't been. Hansko could be that kind of stalwart, that fundamental pillar in defense, especially amidst the failed Cuti Romero pursuit.
Yeah, I mean, Jimenez is such a frustrating figure because I don't think that there's been a preseason for literally the last decade that you or I haven't said, oh, well, if he stays healthy this year, then he'll be huge. But I think expecting that at this point is kind of a fool's errand. I mean, he plays a decent amount, but you just know there's going to be those injuries during the season and typically at a critical juncture as well. So he's frustrating, obviously, been a great servant to the club, but counting on him for significant minutes probably is not the best way of planning a squad. It definitely does seem like this squad is, for some reason, very rich in fullbacks and not so much in real deal center backs. So we're kind of hoping on, like you said, Lenglet and Lenormand, the 2 sort of veteran guys, to be like, all right, let's see what you got. And the fact that Hansko has already come in and it looks like he's probably maybe going to take their spot is probably not the best reflection of the depth in that area. But, we'll see. Hopefully he just turns out to be excellent and they don't get a look in. But it definitely is going to be a bit of a patchwork effort, I think.
And you know what? I wouldn't be stunned if come October or November, Mark Pubil is starting next to Hansko. Pubil is, I said, I think, was it last week? Yeah, Pubil is 6'3". He has tree trunks for legs.
He's a big dude. Yeah, he's a big dude.
Huge. And he was playing at fullback. He's a natural fullback, but you can see why Simeone is interested in making him a center back. It's pragmatic, sure, because Llorente and Molina are still here. Which surprises me. I thought Molina was going to leave this summer, but those two dudes are still here. You don't want an overbooking at that position. And with Pubil, if you convert him to a center back, you have 5 defenders without needing to go out and get another. It's very probable that the club told him, listen, we're not going to go get another center back. You make it work. So Simeone is going to try to do what he's done for the last 14 years. Make it work. Try to reinvent a player's position and try to make a new player out of him. He's done it with so many dudes over the years, and Pubil might be the latest. That versatility is such a huge plus. He's really tall, good in the air, a good ball carrier. Yeah, you can see why Simeone would be interested in turning him into a central defender. So we'll see how that goes. Hansko and Pubil could be the solution, though, amidst these questions in defense that Atleti. We never used to worry about this, Rob. Back in the day, we never used to worry about this.
This was not the problem, no.
It was always who's going to score the goals. Now that's not as much of an issue. Now it's who's going to prevent the goals.
The man can organize a defense. I would much rather him try to crowbar a defense together than an attack, if you know what I mean.
That is his reputation. I think it's still a fairly earned reputation. 3.5 years ago, we went to the Etihad with a defense of Renan Lodi, Reinildo Mandava, Felipe Montero, Stefan Savic, and Shime Versalco against Manchester City. And we got out of there with a creditable result. We only lost 1-0 on the one mistake we made that game, which was Reinildo and Kondogbia stepping up, and Kevin De Bruyne just sneaks through and scores the only goal.
Simeone got absolutely slaughtered for that for reasons I still do not understand.
I've long stopped trying to understand. It's a bludgeon people use on us. Like
it's like, guys, what did you want him to do? Did you want him to go out and get absolutely smoked 5-0? Because that's what would have happened.
The 5-0 is just one of the best days I've had watching football in my life.
Yeah, it's
seeing that deployed was brilliant. And City, they had no idea what to do. Like, I want to win too. Stupid. Like, I desperately want this team to win the Champions League. Of course I do. But you also have to be realistic.
Yeah.
You got to be realistic, I think.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let me ask you this. Who is the most exciting signing that's come through the door this summer? And as a follow-up to that, what else do you think Atleti have to do in the market to build a truly competitive team? Not necessarily one that should or is obligated to win a title, but one that can continue to build and continue to compete better with Real Madrid and Barcelona this season.
I think Baena is probably the most exciting. I think both him and Almada, because of what they can bring from a technical perspective, are probably going to be the most eye-catching in terms of adding something a little bit different into the team. And I think both of those are really smart transfers, all things considered. I mean, Almada is pretty cheap for a player of his reputation up to this point. And buying players from other La Liga teams that have experience, I think, is a smart move. I think we've seen it done to success on numerous occasions. So I think that's kind of an easy fix there. I am worried about the defense to some degree. I know I see what you're saying about being able to convert some guys, but it really does seem like a patchwork affair to me, especially at center back. I worry that, Jimenez is going to be injured at some point, and then you're kind of just piecing it together. Hopefully Hansko comes good, or maybe Pubil steps up, but these are kind of unknown quantities. I mean, one guy was playing in Segunda last year, and the other guy's coming from the Eredivisie. These aren't nailed on starters coming in right away. This is kind of trying to make something from some sort of not prospects necessarily, but they have skills. It's just we don't quite know how they're going to translate right away and if they'll be ready to go from the first match week. So I worry about the defense. I think another center back in that area would be a good signing, especially someone, maybe a little, not so much an older guy, but someone who's a little bit more experienced, preferably in La Liga, I think would be a point to target. I don't have a huge amount of confidence in Longley and Lenormand. They don't do a whole lot for me personally. Just the way the second half of the year went for both of them.
I really would have liked for them to sign Romero. I know it wasn't all that feasible given what Spurs were demanding and given that team is now in the Champions League, but
yeah,
man, he would have been such a good fit here. Like it's such an obvious fit.
Yeah, it really is. Like, is there any more of a Simeone player?
No.
Romero. I mean, he's Argentinian. He's a bit reckless, He certainly would have made a lot of sense and would have made me feel a bit more confident about this defense going forward, for sure.
Atlético Madrileño prospects getting some playing time this preseason. Hano Monserrate and Taufik Seydou, both acquitting themselves fairly well over the course of preseason. Taufik especially playing pretty well against Newcastle. Some ball losses here and there, but he's 17 years old. I think he's a Ghana youth team international, I want to say. Again, just a little sloppy in possession, but I really like the energy and the work rate. He's really long arms, really long legs, able to win the ball back. I really liked his fit in midfield. Monserrate looks like a really promising attacking midfield prospect. We had Jorge San Cristobal on a couple of weeks ago, the Atleti Cantera expert. He told us about Hano. Wouldn't it be great, Rob, if one of these guys became a first-team regular? We just don't see that a whole lot at Atleti. We see Barcelona just churn out wonder kids by the dozen. And, I get a little jealous. I get a little envious that Barcelona should not be in a position. They should not be in this position where, Messi leaves the club. They're in financial hell. And here's Lamine Yamal. Oh, here's Pau Cubarsí. Oh, here's Gavi. Here's Pedri. Get out of here.
It's the only thing that's keeping that club afloat. I mean, imagine the state that they'd be in if those guys hadn't
hit
generational talents.
And they hadn't pulled all the levers to get like Rafinha and Lewandowski and Koundé there.
Right. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It is definitely a frustrating thing because there's no reason why Atleti should not have a more robust academy at this point. And frankly, they've been unlucky. There have been some of the guys who are the highest rated coming out of the academy just got unlucky with injuries or their development stalled out. And that can happen with young players, but it is certainly always exciting to have a guy come out of the academy that, you didn't have to buy him and it's just, he gets the club already and you don't really have to make a whole lot of adjustments. But yeah, it's a shame. And it's definitely something that the club should probably be focused more on, but we'll see.
We have Barrios and Giuliano in the team now, and that's great.
Yeah.
But, I would
Pour
like
one
to
out
see...
for Borja Garces. Pour one out for him.
Victor Moriejo as well, who just left and joined Burgos. Yeah, we talked about those dudes back in the day on Cult Gennaro chat.
Perhaps a little bit too much.
Yeah, Borja had that great moment against Eibar, I think. He scored a last-second equalizer.
Here we go.
I think it was his debut. Like, let's go. New star here. And then it just... I think he made like a couple other first team appearances. Then he got hurt.
Bad. He did his cruciate, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that, I think. Yeah, something bad.
Prospects break your heart. It's true in football. It's true in baseball. You and I usually talk baseball.
Everything.
When I have you on the show, we like to talk baseball, but baseball is not worth discussing right for me right now.
I don't want to talk about it. I have no comment.
Other than Corbin Carroll being freaking awesome, I have nothing to say about baseball at this moment.
Good. Let's keep it that way.
But we do have college football season starting soon, and our friendship will be further tested if ASU and Georgia are in the playoff and they play each other in the playoff, man.
Well, listen, let's be glad if we get to that point, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to leave it there. This was a very fun episode of That Atleti Podcast. We will be back later on in the coming week. Ricky Menendez will be back from holiday, and we'll preview the Espanyol game as well as the league season ahead. In the meantime, subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're watching us here on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like, leave a comment. We really appreciate the discourse. We love discussing Atleti with you guys. IntoTheCalderon.com, Into the Calderon on X, Instagram, TikTok. You can find us there as well. But I would be remiss if I didn't thank my guest, Rob Walker, for making his glorious return to the English language Atleti podcast circuit.
My pleasure, man. It was a wonderful time, as always.
Jeremy and Rob here. Adios.